Hello, everybody. Welcome to our chat on Genetie and Boutinot in Burgundy. My name is Sam, and I'm here with another Sam, Samantha Bailey, and Deborah Brooks. They're going to introduce themselves in a second. But before I forget, I should say that please let us know in the chat where you're calling in from all around the world. Hopefully, there are plenty of you. And if you do have any questions about anything that we're going to talk about over the next 40 minutes or so, then put them in the chat and we'll try and get to them when we can. If we don't cover them during the session, we'll try and cover them at the end, or somebody will get back to you in due course. So, Samantha, Deb, would you like to introduce yourselves and let us know briefly how you're sort of connected to the Genetie project? We'll go with Deb first.
Okay, thanks, Sam. Hello, good afternoon. My name's Deb Brooks, and I've been at Boutinot for quite some time. I currently am heading up the independent specialist part of the business in the UK, but I have had a lot of history in French wines with Boutinot. I was once French product manager many years ago. So I guess it was only fitting when we bought a place in France, and in particular in Saint-Véran in Genetie, that I got involved. And I just wanted to explain what sort of Genetie is.
Well, before you do that, Deb, let's Samantha introduce herself.
Oh, sorry.
Good afternoon. I'm Samantha Bailey, based in Boutinot French office, which is in the heart of the southern Maconais region, where Saint-Véran is our real home. We've had a couple of offices in Saint-Véran in the previous years. We're now in Mâcon, which is literally 15 kilometers away from Saint-Véran. So it's really all on the doorstep. Just for the sake of helping people understand, I've been with Boutinot for quite some time, like Deborah. So I've seen the history of Boutinot in France develop. So between the two of us, we have quite a good understanding of what's going on, where we think we should be going, which I think is part of the object of this little session.
Yes. So thank you for that, everybody. We need then, Deb, to understand a little bit for anybody who's not, who's joining us for the first time, who's not heard of Genetie perhaps, or doesn't know of what we do in, there's the lovely headstone. You can talk about that in a second, but everybody doesn't know who we are or what we're doing in Burgundy. Could you just give us, Deb, a really quick overview of what Genetie is?
Yeah. Everybody? Okay. Genetie is a very humble ferme ancienne in Saint-Véran, based in Saint-Véran. The name came from, as you can see, a carving on a stone within the property or outside the property, and it's quite fitting that it's actually on a cornerstone of the property. It's a protected cornerstone as well, so it's never going to go away. We don't know what it means, but it represents, I suppose, to us sort of the cornerstone of what, without being too cheesy, of what Boutinot is, which is wine. We love wine. We love drinking wine. We like producing wine, and wine is the cornerstone of our business. It's very small. It's very humble, as I say. It's got about 4.5 hectares attached to it, which are being invested in at the moment. But it is a work in progress. It does need some renovation. But what Genetie is also is really a celebration and a culmination of what we've been doing in Burgundy, and southern Burgundy in particular, for 25 years, maybe longer. We've always produced wines in Burgundy using a lot of our partners, a lot of our growers that we know, which obviously Samantha will talk about. It's really a foundation for what we want to do in Burgundy, and the start of a journey, really. Very exciting.
The name of this presentation is obviously Vignes, Terre, Temps. Can you just explain a little bit about what that means and how it's associated with Genetie?
Yeah, so the Vignes, obviously, we own vines. We selected a property which is in the south of Saint-Véran, which has got very, very good terroir, incredibly good terroir. That's one of the reasons why we obviously bought it. So we have Terre, and we have time. We have time to invest in it and to build it for something that's going to be quite special in the future. So it's really a culmination of what, and we've had time to know how to elevate good wine in Burgundy. In a relatively small way. We're not the big negociants, and nor do we want to be. But we've got the time from way back when, excuse me, and we have the time in the future to get it right. And we've started off with a really lovely range of wines, I think.
And I guess there are also three really important elements in wine production generally, regardless of where it is. The vine, the earth, and a little bit of patience, I guess, is necessary for all good winemaking.
Absolutely.
Combination of those three elements that pull together to create fantastic wines.
Exactly. Samantha, you said before about really briefly how long Boutinot's been associated with Burgundy, where you're based in Mâcon. Can you just talk a little bit about how the Genetie project came to be, the sort of process of acquiring this ferme ancienne, as they put it?
Well, the actual ferme, as it stands today, was really, we call it a coup de foudre. Dennis and Michael were regular visitors to our office in Saint-Véran, and we happened to stumble across this building that was up for sale, building with a plot of land that was up for sale, and they visited it, and it was just like, I'm going to say love at first sight, which is quite quite amazing, quite intriguing. And from there, then spread the desire to create a home for us in the Mâconnais area, because we have our home in Terre, which everybody is familiar with. But what people do forget is that Boutinot, France, was established in Juliena in 1990, which is just on the borderline of the Mâconnais and the Beaujolais. And we have our home established in this area for 30 years. So it was time to concretize our home and our environment within the area where we have been working and actually sourcing and producing wines for the past 30 years. So this little love affair sort of started up. It's got quite a long way to go if we want to end up making wine from the actual vines that we have.
We have a photograph there. Exactly.
We have a photograph, yeah. It's an amazing place. It's in an amazing situation. There's amazing views around. It's one of the best sites in Saint-Véran in terms of the actual soil that is available on a yet to be planted site. But everything is there, and when it will all pull together, this little domain will be quite a specialist place and a really good place to visit. But we can't wait for all of that to happen until we start speaking, which is why we started putting things in place now and developing a range of wines based on the cornerstone. The actual pillar that Deborah was talking about, you can just about see in this photograph. It is what is called a Mâconnais pillar. It's the little pillar on the front end, and the cornerstone is carved in the pink granite, which is a key stone of the area. I think it's quite useful to understand that there was a quarry in Saint-Véran, which is this pink stone, and the footstone and many other stones in the building come from the quarry that was disaffected, I'm not sure how many years ago, but it's all local stone. And this lovely pink colour that we see in the stone and that we've tried to use across our labels just reflects the terroir. And the terroir to us is hugely, hugely important.
Just one other thing that you mentioned there, Samantha, which I think is really important to say, in relation to Domaine Boutinot in Queyranne, we know that, in Southern Rhone for us, it's all about great quality wine, but price quality as well, and we see it in the Southern Rhone, and we see it in Southern Burgundy as well. The really classicism of the Mâconnais wines. For I don't want to be too sort of like talk about price, but for very, very good value, it's incredible what the Mâconnais is doing now. Generally in the area, it's just fantastic.
We have, for anybody watching, they'll know Burgundy well, hopefully, and that'll have, know an awful lot about it. And whenever anybody talks about Burgundy, they obviously talk about this notion of terroir, and they have this image in their head of this, patchwork, this quilted patchwork of growers all over the place, and that's sort of the charm of it. But for our own little site there, just for now, we'll get on to some of our partners in a minute. But for that little site, we should be realistic about the sort of size of it, shouldn't we? There's only, what did you say, Deb? Four.
Well, there's 3 clima. There's sort of, I think it's around about 3.5 hectares in total, in different areas, around. So they're not all. There's a really lovely plot of, I think it's some little areas around. So yeah, the terroir is phenomenal. I understand that when I went to visit, and Samantha and Guillaume were there, they were talking about actually Saint-Véran particularly being perceived as sort of akin to Puy Frisé. I don't want to call it the poor man's Puy Frisé, because it isn't. It's Saint-Véran. It has its own very, very special identity. But certainly towards the south, you get incredibly good iron-rich terroir, and just it comes out in some amazing quality.
So I believe we're due to talk about just a couple of the wines in the range. I will skip to the end just so we can see the range. We'll come back to some of the other photos in a second. But that's the range for anybody who's not seen them sort of as it sort of stands. Samantha, you spearhead the winemaking at Genetie. You oversee all the blending for the wines in the range. I wonder if you could just, for starters, just tell us a little bit about the Macon Charnay in particular. I believe it's the 21st year of production of that wine generally, but just talk a little bit about the wine, what makes it special, and sort of how it embodies this ethos that we're trying to sort of get with Genetie.
Yeah, I think we need to take a step back in time because of where we are situated geographically. We've always been very insistent upon offering wines of quality and value from the areas in which we work. And a certain number of years ago, it was, well, we want to do a Macon village, but we want to do something better than a Macon village. So where do we go? So within the Mâconnais, you have the overall Mâconnais appellation, and then you have specific villages that can also add their name onto the label. And there are some rather well-known villages like Macon Luny, Macon Chardonnay, etc., etc., etc. But being based in southern Mâconnais, we wanted to investigate a little more our local region, and we actually went to Macon Charnay, which is the smallest of the villages that can have its name added to the label. And the first couple of years, it was a question of tasting with a cellar. We work with one cellar, but have open access to the whole tanks that they make in Macon Charnay. So the first couple of years was a question of tasting, and then it's, look, we found what we want to get it into bottle, so let's create our own personal blend, which is the joy of working with cellars who open their doors and just line up bottle after bottle and let us taste. So Macon Charnay, I'm not afraid of saying it, we work with the Cave Co-op, and I go along and have been working with them hand in hand for over 20 years now. And we make our very personal blend. Nobody else has it, and it's what I call my buttercups and daisies wine, because it just sings of sunshine, but with finesse and minerality that comes from some of the vineyards that they actually exploit, which are on the foothills of the Roche de Solutré, which is a huge granitic prehistoric site. And it's that granite that brings some extra depth to the sunshine that we get in the daffodil cuvée. There is one cuvée that stands out every year, and it's just daffodils. So it sounds funny, it sounds weird, but it really is a buttercups and daisies daffodil. So it's a yellow floral wine. And we've been, 21 years on. We've just rebaptized it to bring it into the Genetie fold, because we believe that's where our future can go. Oh, sorry. Oh, I forgot. Sorry. And we're really proud of this wine because we're offering consistent quality year in, year out, and a specific style that is the Boutinot style. And that to me is one of the strong points of what we as a business are able to offer to customers. Once we have a style that we like, and that obviously customers like because it works, then we really stick to it and work very hard to ensure that we keep that profile as we progress.
And just to reiterate, Samantha, you just talked about the way that you work with a particular seller in terms of long-term relationship, and you go there, been going there for many years, and that is typical of the way that we make wine at Boutinot, isn't it? That sort of relationship based winemaking.
The Boutinot way, we actually create relationships with growers, with sellers, and we work with these people to help them progress and make wines that are profiled with which we feel we can work. There's always a two-way process. It's never one-dimensional. So we go along and taste. We listen to them, they listen to us, and at the end of the day, we end up building a blend, an assemblage of a wine that really is something quite personal and something quite particular. And it is only through the relationships that we build up over the years that enable us to do that.
And how far does that relationship tend to go? Does it sort of, is it just you arrive at the cellar door, or does it go all the way back to the work that some of those people do in the vineyards too? I know we don't necessarily tend the vines for them, but how much?
We understand how they work. We understand what goes on. We don't get involved in the specific picking date, for example, or treatment dates, but we follow the cellar. We know what they're doing, and we have regular contact with them. But the real work, to be honest, for this particular wine, the real work is once they've made the elements, it's then choosing the different elements and finding out how they work together to create the whole. So as we were saying yesterday, whether we in the master of assemblage, it is the actual blending process of the different elements that gives us a jigsaw puzzle. You have separate elements and you have to work out how they fit together to create the full picture that we want to be presenting. And the picture's in a bottle. It's very much a year-long relationship rather than just that one moment in the cellar, isn't it? Most definitely, yeah. As I said, they're virtually on our doorstep, so I'll go in every couple of months to see what's going on, to keep up with the people, just to have a chat, to taste their wines, to bring the wines that we create with them back to them to taste, so they can understand what we're doing, because that is really, really important. If they don't understand what they're doing, they won't understand why they need to be working in the way in which they're working.
And Deb, we've talked about before about Genetie, between us, the exactly what Samantha's just said there about that relationship-based winemaking, if you will, if we can coin it that, being very much part of what we want Genetie to represent. The site itself is so small that it can't be an estate, but we really want to celebrate the way that we make wine in that region rather than one specific place. Do you want to just talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. We want to celebrate the people that we've known for many years. over the Saint Véran, for instance, the La Rencontre in the range. This is a wine that's made for Genetie by some very good friends of ours in Davier, actually, the Sommers family, Guillaume Sommers, with whom we've been working for, again, over 20 years. When I was French wine buyer 25 years ago, I used to go and see his dad. I mean, that's how old I am. And they've got amazing, they're terroir, Salutre, Végison, all around. And, when we wanted a Saint Véran, when we have our own vines, that would be great when they're ready to be picked. But, in the meantime, we want to celebrate those relationships, and so much so it's interesting you were saying about not going into the vineyards and stuff like that. There are always people behind all of these wines, from agronomists to blenders to pickers to all of that, and we have just launched sort of it's almost like a side hustle of Genetie, dare I say, almost like a projet par Genetie to celebrate that. Samantha found a really great parcel of Chablis, well, you know, we should, and it is a parcel, it's a limited amount of wine in this vintage. So it's actually to celebrate and to bring together in a bottle that we like to drink, and in a way that is still talking to Genetie, these parcels that we find in the south. I mean, this is a Chablis, so it's from Chablis, but it's the one that's sort of towards the end of the range with the very particular reversed N, which is again part of the foundation of Genetie.
Yeah, I've done a little drawing.
Very nice. So yeah, it's all about our friends and our you know, the people that we've known for many years there.
And I think what's if you'll allow me, what's sort of special about that, not to hammer on the point, but it is the Boutinot way, as we've said, but also it stands out for me, at least, in Burgundy, where there is an image, there's a sort of there's an image that perhaps people have in their mind of Burgundy of either being very expensive, or, you know, generations upon generations upon generations of the same family who've owned the same plot, and it's been divided up hundreds and hundreds of times over the year. However, whatever people think of it, that isn't the way that we make wine, because we can't. We you know, to be blunt, we simply can't afford some of those plots of land to buy and have in the family for generations. But what we can do is we can you know, put Samantha there 30 years ago and start from scratch, building those relationships up and up and up, and now we're starting to see the sort of fruits of that hard work, rather than the years and years and years of sort of tending the same plot of land. Perhaps it's a different journey. Still about.
Yeah. Sorry, you go.
Me? I think that another of our wines actually really does express that. It's the Genetie Bourgogne Blanc. A certain number of years ago, Dennis said to me, Samantha, I'm really excited about Burgundy. I want you to go out and find the best white Burgundy that you can make in your area. So rather like the Macon-Charny, it's a question of going out, meeting people, looking at their vines, tasting their wines over a few years before making any sort of firm commitments with specific growers. And it took 3 years to find the right seller, the right people. It's a father and son setup, and they have some really good vines in a really nice area. And it was right, I found the wine, we put a couple of barrels in the cellar, it's all here, what are we going to do with it? And it was, you've got the wine, but we don't know what to do with it. So we sort of used it because we had wine and we needed to sell it. And then all of a sudden, again, everything came together with Genetie. It was, wow, we've got the right wine to put into that bottle, and it can convey our story. It can tell us what we're all about, the Vignes, the Terre and the Temps and the people. And we've come up with I'm going to call it an oak-aged white Burgundy. It's only 10% of oak in there, barrel fermented, but it just gives it that little touch of difference. And it means that we have our story to go into the bottle, and we have a wine that tells our story, and it is enjoyable and can express the terroir of the area, as well as it being part of the Greater Burgundy. So it's all part of our greater project.
You know, and these are not, you know, they're not industrial wines. They're I wouldn't say that they're super limited, but nor are they super stretchable, because, you know, to make good white Burgundy, I remember, as Samantha will remember, when we were making a lot of good barrel fermented and barrel lavallage of Burgundy, again 15 years ago for a major UK national. It took time and effort. Oh my God, the effort! You know, but it wasn't. You know, the proof in the pudding was in the tasting and the drinking. So it was definitely worth it.
So we've talked then about, obviously, our efforts in the area and relationships to growers and picking the different wines from the places that we are. But Deb, you touched on it earlier. And I wonder if, Samantha, you could expand on it. The actual plot itself, the little building, the little ruin that we saw here, is actually in Saint-Véran, and there is a unique, and we've got a wine which is a Saint-Véran. I wonder if you could just talk a little bit about well, that wine, but also the unique terroir of Saint-Véran and what makes it so special from a winemaker's point of view?
Saint-Véran actually has probably 3 different sorts of terroir, which make 3 different sorts of wine. You have the sort of the slightly more voluptuous style, slightly greener style, and a more mineral style. And we are fortunate to have vines in a part that's called Les Colas, which is on top of a hill, and it's the more mineral character that comes through because of the subsoil. And Saint-Véran as an appellation is at the moment going through the motions of requesting Premier Cru status for some of the smaller areas, the lieux-dits within the overall appellation. And Les Colas is one of the areas that would become, in however many years, when it all gets through the INAO definitions, one of the Premier Cru plots. So it really is one of the perfect sites for Saint-Véran. As I said, it's on the crest of a hill, and it gets the best sun exposition without getting too hot, which is also very good in these times where we are seeing what the climatic heating is doing to vines. Chardonnay does need a bit of cool to make sure that the ripening process isn't too rapid. And that's how we get the minerality as well. It's not purely the soil, it is also the sort of the different temperatures between night and day. So we're very fortunate to have a plot that is just in front of the house that is making very good but very concentrated wine, and a plot at the back of the house where there's far more pebbles in the soil that will introduce a more granitic substructure. And that granitic substructure is something that's quite interesting, because that's what we find. Deb mentioned that with the Somers family, they have vines on the Vergisson-Solutré area. So we're coming back to the stony areas again. And it is that minerality to me that gives the finesse, and it actually also gives a floral character to the wines. To me, those are the 2 elements that really knit together and create the essence of what we capture in bottle.
And I guess another question to you, Samantha, is another thing that Deb touched on earlier was sort of price quality ratio idea that you can get out of, and that's what makes the Southern Macon particularly exciting, perhaps from our point of view as a wine business. But the popularity of the Macon and the Southern Macon is on the up at the moment, and I wonder sort of what it is. When a lot of people think of the Côte d'Or or whatever, when they think of Burgundy, what is it about the Southern Macon in particular, other than the fact it's near where you live, that excites you?
I think it's the drinkability. To me, wine is something that one shares. One doesn't sit down and drink a bottle of wine alone. So it's all about sharing and enjoying experiences, discussions, tastings. And the Maconnais to me is reflective of that. There's a certain friendship and a certain conviviality is the word that we often use, that is linked with the wines. And the wine itself is expressive of that, because it's complex, but not too demanding, not too complicated. You want to sit and enjoy it. It's not one of these wines where you sort of sit it on a pedestal and say, oh my goodness me, like some of the Côte d'Or wines where you don't even dare put your lips to the glass because of the price of the wine. Wine is about having a bottle. I'm sorry, I'm going to show it. Wine is about having a bottle, pouring it into a glass and saying, look, let's taste it together. Let's see what it does to us. Let's see how it speaks to us. And that is what Maconnais wines allow us to do.
I just feel a bit more classy when I'm drinking Genetie.
Then when you're drinking what, Deb?
Well, dare I say. Yeah, they're just really lovely. Yeah, it's great. Samantha's just...
It's sitting in the right place in terms of its quality and its price. It's sitting in the right place. Yeah, it is a special wine, but it's not that special that you will only open it on special days. You can sort of sit down on a Friday and say, oh, I think I need a little bit of something to start the weekend. And it's an excellent wine to sit down and drink, or in fact, in general, they go really well with food as well. Yeah. So we have the good compromise of having a wine that you can sit and sip a glass and just enjoy, or you can decide that you want to go out for a meal or cook at home and also enjoy wines because they have sufficient depth and concentration to accompany food. And again, coming back to the area, Beaujolais-Mâconnais, there's a huge amount of local cuisine that obviously fits with the wines that come from the areas. And it's all part of history. Vignes, Terre, Temps, the Terre and the Temps, the soil and the time. Cooking takes time, but you enjoy it. It all works in together.
And Deb, I wonder whether you could just give us a quick overview on the way the actual, and I haven't prepped you on this one, but on the way that they look, just because having flipped through some of these photographs now, particularly this, and you can see the colour and the beautiful light that I think you talked about when Dennis and Mike went there. It was this sort of the light that struck them, perhaps that helps you fall in love with that place. But if you could just talk about how that influences packaging, perhaps.
I mean, the photographs aren't really doing it justice. The area itself, and when we go to the area, and when we went to the area for the first time, we were just struck by that really amazing light. I don't know, I can't remember people talking about Van Gogh going there to paint, but it was almost that type of moment, because the area, the buildings are made of this beautiful honeystone. So you get the light reflecting off the stone, you get obviously the light reflecting off the vineyards. And we wanted to encapsulate that on the label. Interestingly, when we showed the white, we sort of like showed the first concepts of the labels to Samantha and the winemaking team. They were saying that actually there's a little sort of what I call a touchstone, the Genetie stone, which is the circular part on design on the Macon, and they were saying, well, actually, when you get the soil in your hand, and it's like a sandstone, and you put a bit of water on it, turns this amazing sort of deep red. So that's amazing how you've encapsulated that. That was pure coincidence, but it was definitely something from, we want to capture the amazing sort of light of the region, and that's why they're all called Illuminé, and La Rencontre is obviously named after the homestead, which is where we are in Saint-Véran. Les Piliers is the pillar, the cornerstone of our winemaking, with the Macon Chardonnay. So hopefully we've been successful in that. Hopefully we've had some very nice feedback about the presentation and the labels. So
I think there's another thing that we can say that's really important about this, wanting to capture and giving the brief to the designers to create something that reflects what is local to the area, and then being able to translate that through technical print processes into a label. So this was a huge challenge. The whole project, I think we can say, has been a huge challenge, because we've known where we want to go, we know where we start, but finding a way of getting there has been a set of hurdles that have had to be overcome. But I'm really pleased to say that I think we've got there, and there is room for development, but we now feel that we have our cornerstone upon which we can build, and that is really a huge sense of achievement. And I think it's teamwork that enables us to get there, and that's something that is really, really important to the whole business and to the individuals that have been involved in the project.
And Samantha, you've helpfully pushed it on to a lovely segue to the sort of culminating question almost, which is, we've now got a platform on which to build, and as you said, and Deb, you spoke about this projet par Genetie idea. I wonder if the two of you could just say something, Deb, to go first, just about what the future of Genetie holds in your mind, either the way where you'd like to go, or the next things we've got coming up, or just something. Yeah,
I guess what the overall objective for me in Genetie is to make wine and produce wine that we would like to drink, and that we're fiercely proud of, and the projet par Genetie concept allows us to find, to properly make really great small parcels of Burgundy, which we will hopefully, I won't say get famous for, but be known for. So, you know, we've had a discussion, Samantha and I, about, I'm probably a bit more bold. Just don't worry. We've got a grower in Macon that actually wants to plant Chenin Blanc in a plot, and you know, we can get some of that, and we can talk to him, and we can declassify to Vin de France. You know, those sorts of weird experimental things can go on in the vessel of Projet par Genetie. We've got the amazing team to find some great wines and to make some great wines. The core range. Hopefully we want people to really enjoy the wines, and for it to be the wine that they pick out of the fridge when they just want a really good glass of wine. And you know, we will develop the property. We will I've always got this vision. There's a great veranda on Genetie, and you know, I've got this vision. I don't do yoga at all, but I want to roll my yoga mat on and just look at the vineyards and just, you know, really take in the piece. It's a beautiful area.
Have you got anything you'd like to add to that, Samantha, for the future of Genetie?
No, I think Deb's encompassed pretty well, actually. I mean, the aim is not to be dictated by what we want to do, but be dictated by what opportunities come along through people that we meet and wines that we taste. We want to be as open and as flexible as possible, because that's what we believe wine is about. You know, we are a wine business. We want the wine to talk to us. We don't want to say to somebody, we need this, we need that. We just want to go out and listen to the environment, taste with people, and stumble across these little gems, or the petit bijoux, as we call them, that will one day become part of the range, even if it's only for one vintage, because we happen to fall in love with that particular wine at a given time. There's a multitude of opportunities out there, so we've just got to make it happen without forcing the path too much. We just need to be out there and listen and taste and see. Time, le temps.
We haven't had any questions come in just yet, so if you do have some, feel free to pop them in, because as we are sort of approaching the end. But I've got a question that I'll add, which personally, yesterday when I was speaking to Robin about Strange Company and its relationship to Wildeburg. And one of the questions that we had was, does this sort of experimental side project almost of a much more classical thing, does the ability to experiment there influence what we do elsewhere in our winemaking in South Africa in that point of view? You know, do we pick things up and learn them and then apply them to what we do elsewhere? And I guess the same question in a different way, maybe to you, Samantha, how much does the relationships that we forge over all this time, how much we know what we can give them, we can understand what we like, and we can work with them to produce wines that are relevant to our markets, etc., and they get to taste the wines that they've made, and that is a constantly improving relationship, if you can put it that way. But how much do they sort of give back to us, and we sort of say, hang a sec, that's an idea that we've just discovered in Chablis, or a concept, and that would be really relevant maybe in the Languedoc, or maybe we could draw a line here and hop around. I know that might be tough to answer, but it's a two-way thing, I guess, is what I'm asking rather than...
Actually, it is quite interesting, because it can take us on to another range of wines that we do, Les Volets, because of our base interest in the Burgundian varietals that we've dealt with for ages. Many years ago, we came across Chardonnay and Pinot Noir down in the Haute Vallée de l'Aude, so near the Pyrenees. And it was, my goodness, these are great varieties that we're used to working with from home, but look how they translate and how they can be used in a completely different sort of environment and make wines that have huge finesse and huge character and flavour, that meet with the palate and meet with the expression of what we want to share with people. So it's like a snowball. You're always learning something. It can strike off at a tangent, and it can be relevant to another part of France, another part of the world. If you listen to the wine and you listen, listen is a funny way of saying it, but if you explore what those wines how they speak to you, there is always something that you can create in another part of the world.
Yeah, and continuing to be curious about those areas as well. It's really important.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much. I think we haven't had any questions, which is either a good thing that we've covered it all so comprehensively, or nobody's listening. But hopefully, If you are watching, you're interested in any of the Genetie wines or tasting them or getting your hands on some samples, get in contact with your Boutinot representative as usual, and they'll sort you out. But I think from all of us, Deb, Samantha, and me, thank you very much, and thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.